Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. New woody plant material. These are plants that you are going to see in garden centers throughout Ontario this coming spring, and a lot of them are going to be highly recommended, of course, but they're going to be great plants that you may want to use to replace some of the trees that are being devastated by emerald ash borer, plants that have become tired, you're bored with, died over this very tough winter, didn't do well, look straggly. Do you want to really play with them, trim them, clean them, fertilize them, etc., to try and bring them back, or do you want to replace them? It's a tough decision. It's called tough love. And in my yard, it happens, okay? It does happen when you get a little bored. It's time, okay? So, here's a couple that you may want to consider. So start making a list, because these should trigger ideas that mean that, I never thought of that. I could try that there. Let's get rid of that plant. Let's try this one. But make sure you go find the plant first before you get rid of the plant that you want to get rid of. Always a good idea. Because you may get in that garden center and find that, I don't like the look of that. Okay? Because plants are very personal things. Woody plants for 2014 in Ontario garden centers. Let's start with one that most people think is really a maple, but when you look at it, you'll go, it might be a maple. Yeah, it looks like a maple. But it's Acer, which is maple, but it's pseudoplatanus, which means it's a false platanus, which is your Acer platanus, which is your London plane trees, okay? But please don't insult this tree by saying it's in that same family. These are much nicer. This one is called Regal Petticoat. It starts in the spring with the leaves as they unfurl, and they sort of have a different shape as they unfurl. They're sort of open up like a bird of paradise flower. The summer leaves are a deep glossy green surface with a velvety royal purple undersides. Their fall color is much more pretty. Okay, you're going to get your fall colors on this one. It's resistant to tar spot, which is something we have a lot of these days. It's salt tolerant, and it thrives in calciferous soils. That's our soils, high in lime, etc. Grows 40 feet tall and 30 feet wide, so you've got to have the room. Not for small properties. Hardy to zone 4. Now, they're starting to try and bring back birches. And this one is Betula platyphylla, and it is known as Parkland Pillar Asian White Birch. It's a narrow columnar. It's an Asian birch, okay? And let's put it this way. It was grown and bred out in Red Deer, Alberta. Okay, so we're talking hardy. It has the bright green foliage and the white bark. The fall color is golden yellow. It grows about 32 feet tall and 5.5 feet across. I like that part. There's a tree. Okay, it's a little tall, but it's not too wide. So it doesn't block out your garden, your good view, but it accents. It makes a nice specimen. Here's a little Korean boxwood. It's called Wedding Ring. And this one you may need to sort of put in a protected area. And I only say that because it's variegated. Otherwise, it's hardy. It's compact, variegated green and lime and gold foliage. Holds the color through the summer and winter months, which is always good. It can be used in formal gardens as hedging or as an accent plant in the landscape. So that's pretty good. You're going to find that one, and it is going to be sold by Morey Nurseries, which means they are going to put it through other nurseries throughout Ontario. Clematis, Sweet Summer Love. Don't you just love that? All you romantic people out there, Sweet Summer Love Clematis. This is a really nice plant. It gives you the flowers and some fragrance. It's a cranberry violet blooms that starts a little bit earlier than the others. So you're probably going to see it in May. It's hardy to zone 5. It grows in full sun or partial shade and will reach 10 feet in height. So you've got one that's got this sort of cranberry violet blooms a little earlier, quite hardy, grows sun and partial shade, which is always important because that way it's easier to place in your garden as a vine on fences or in areas where you want it up on a trellis or on a pedestal or any other garden feature that you want to grow it up and over. So that makes it very well. It's from Proven Winners in Cannondale Nurseries, and it's called Clematis Sweet Summer Love. Hydrangeas, you know that I always love hydrangeas. And one of the questions I always get is, what's a good hydrangea that consistently blooms? And I have yet to find one that is absolutely spectacular. But I am finding year after year my Forever and Ever Pink, which is the first Forever and Ever one, is the one that seems to do well. The problem with hydrangeas, is this. They need mulch. They need good soil. They need good soil moisture. They'll grow in the sun. They'll grow in the shade. But the more sun they get, the more moisture they need. And the more likely they are to wilt. When they wilt, they will lose leaves. They don't bloom as well. They don't grow as well. So they sort of set back and come back because, of course, the wilt means that they're not getting the moisture up and there is some root setback. So you need to provide adequate moisture, heavy mulching, very good soil, lots of organic matter, which is going to retain your moisture, and they will bloom more consistently. It's one of those questions I get all the time. I also found another group, which is the dancing ones, which seems to do quite well in the garden and seems to stand up a little better. I prefer it in a little bit of light shade, not a lot, just a little bit. And again, heavy mulch, consistent moisture, decent soil. Okay, all for all of those. Here's the first new one that you're going to see. This is hydrangea macrophylla, which means it's going to have the big head, dancing angel, and it'll be sold under Peppermint Swirl. It's a repeat bloomer, pink or blue, okay? And, of course, being pink or blue, that means you've changed the pH of the soil. Flowers are sort of a peppermint candy variegation, okay? So it's got a little bit of a variegation of a darker pink in the pink flowers. Upright stems during blooming, grows 3 feet tall and wide. And it is from the Home & Garden Home Plant Collection, sold by Willowbrook, which means they will be distributing it throughout Ontario. The other one that they've got out there from Morey's Nurseries is Next Generation Pistachio Hydrangea. Now, pistachio is a reblooming hydrangea. It has an assortment of colors and flowers that make it a little different in the landscape. It's going to basically be your darker pinks, rosy reddish pinks, but the center is green on the flower, on the petals. So it's sort of that green pistachio. You know how you get the red pistachios with the green seed on the inside that you eat? Well, that's what it sort of looks like. Hence the name pistachio hydrangea. Edgy Hearts hydrangea is a neat one. It is large head, pink red, accented by white edges. And its size is going to be small to medium-sized hydrangea, so it doesn't get too big. Strong stems, glossy green foliage, and I think you're going to find that if you can get this one set up in your garden, you're really going to like the color contrast on it. Endless Summer Bloomstruck. Now this one is an interesting one. The new heads measure 3.5 to 5 inches across. They're an intense pink, rosy pink, I guess. Okay. Violet or blue, depending on pH again, right? You get acidic, you get the blues and the violets, and if you're more on the neutral to slightly alkaline, you'll get more pink. The heads are strikingly large, usually red-purple. They are heat tolerant as well, which is good for us in the summer heat. It is recommended that it resists that summer heat wilt, so it doesn't really flag like a lot of the others. So Endless Summer Bloomstruck is one of the ones that you'll find it's a little easier to place in the garden, and of course keep under mulch, good soil, moist, but it'll be less susceptible to that heat wilt that a lot of the hydrangeas are in this area very susceptible to. It grows 4 feet tall and 5 feet wide, and it's hardy to zone 4. Now there is one that I'm going to have you try. I'm not a big fan of the paniculata hydrangeas. I've been burned by the old straight paniculatas. But Firelight seems to be one that has a lot of advantages over the old ones. First of all, the panicles, the pointed flower heads, are upright. There's lots of them. The florets are not open like they used to be. They're a little more compact and tight, so it makes the head overall, the upright panicle, a little thicker. It starts white. It goes to a rich pomegranate pink. Its thick, sturdy stems make it look good in a container. Yes, as well as in the garden. It's hardy to zone 4. It only grows 4.5 to 6 feet tall and wide, so it adapts to full sun or partial shade. I think you're going to find that this one is enough of an improvement to make me change my mind on the paniculata type hydrangeas. Not a big fan of them. The least hardy of the hydrangeas, other than the old florist ones, are the oak leaf hydrangeas. Oak leaf hydrangea is a native much farther south. Down in the Carolinas, you'll see it grow up there. It is not the same as the ones you're buying. The ones you've been buying have been breeding for well over 40 or 50 years, trying to get the oak leaf hydrangea into more of a horticultural form with less open heads, less open plant, smaller, more compact because they get huge, the native ones, and they just not hardy, okay? It used to be that you couldn't grow a oak leaf hydrangea in Ontario. It just didn't go. Okay, they weren't consistent bloomers or they weren't consistent growers, and they winter killed. Okay, now the new one is Ruby Slippers. Its very large panicles are 9 inches. They're open, they're white, and they turn to a dark pink. They're held above the oak leaf foliage. So it's sort of an oak leaf looking leaf, very large. Compact, dense. Mahogany red hues in the fall. We're talking about the leaves. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people grew the native one, is it also had some nice fall colors. It's good for small landscapes, informal hedge, or as a standout in with a mixed border. 4 feet tall and wide. So if you're going to try this one. Okay. You'll notice it doesn't tell you the hardiness. I would say 6, zone 6 for sure. You may be able to push it into a protected zone 5. Okay. Magnolias. You know that I love magnolias. And here's one called Magnolia stellata, which is your star magnolia, which is the white ones that bloom early in the spring before the big saucer magnolias, usually what they call the star or white magnolia. This one is called Centennial Blush. Centennial Blush is a star magnolia. It's compact, which is good because the old guys were really quite big. The buds are pink and they open to a double white flower. The most of the Magnolia stellata are single. These ones are going to be double, more rose, like a ball, okay, shape. As they open in the early spring, the double flowers will turn into a lighter pink. So you'll have this very delicate white to slightly pink. It has a very good fragrance to it. Right there is a reason to grow it. If you can get this one growing, you're going to get that spring fragrance, and it's really hard to get a lot of good fragrance first thing in the spring. Okay? Because fragrance was originally developed to attract pollinators. Well, okay, there's not a lot of pollinators out there to attract in spring plants, so they rely on wind pollination as opposed to insect. The leaves turn a golden bronze in the autumn. It was bred by Dr. Michael Durr, and trust me, Durr is an authority on plant material that's well respected around the world. Some of his best work is in books that every horticultural student learns and grows and owns. How's that? The stuff that he does. It grows in the sun in partial shade. It's 12 to 18 feet tall and spreads out 10 to 15 feet. We'll keep it all in feet. So it's more rounded and hardy to zone 4. Definitely one of the ones that you should take a look at and grow. Few others on here that you will find in the woody shrubs, but I am going to leave those and we'll put those up on the blog. Okay, actually there's quite a few, and so we'll leave those ones, but those are the important ones I want you to look at and try this spring. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.